You know, there's a very specific kind of tired that sleep simply does not fix. It's not a fatigue you can cure with a quick nap, a full 8 hours, or even like a 2-week holiday where you switch your phone off and just stare at a coastline. In this explainer, we're going to look really closely at a profoundly misunderstood human experience. It's an exhaustion that doesn't accumulate from the tasks in your daily routine, but rather from the sheer relentless labor of simply being around other people. If you've ever found yourself just lying in the dark, watching your phone screen light up with notifications and feeling completely, utterly paralyzed at the thought of replying, well, you're not alone. It's like that old saying goes, right? You haven't lost the will to live, you've lost the will to explain yourself. Specifically, to explain yourself one more time to someone who honestly wasn't really listening in the first place. Listen, you are not broken, you are experiencing a heavy, deeply relatable mental burnout, and today we're going to use the hard psychology behind it to understand exactly why you feel this way.
Chapter 1. The Unnamed Exhaustion. Okay, let's dive into this.
We really need to name what is actually happening to you here, because people are so quick to slap a catch-all label on it. They call it introversion, they call it professional burnout, sometimes they even confuse it with depression. But those labels, they flatten something far more interesting and complex. What it actually is relentless social labor. It's the experience of sitting alone in a crowded room, maybe full of people you genuinely love, like friends or family, and still feeling like you're running on 3% battery, just quietly waiting for it to be socially acceptable to leave. You go to dinner, the food is good, nobody says anything offensive, but you get home, lie on your bed with your shoes still on, and just stare at the ceiling. You aren't sad, you aren't happy, you are just completely hollowed out, desperately needing the world to be quiet.
The actual clinical term for this is sustained cognitive depletion. You see, social interaction isn't passive. It requires continuous active processing. You're reading facial cues, you're tracking tone, you're monitoring what you say against what you actually meant, and you're adjusting in real time to a room full of other people's emotional states. Psychologist Mark Snyder found that people differ significantly when it comes to regulating their behavior during social interactions. And for people whose brains are doing that intricate work constantly and consciously, the exhaustion afterward is intensely real. It is literal, heavy lifting for your brain.
Chapter 2. The Cost of Connection.
This depletion leads to a very strange, almost contradictory experience of loneliness. You know the exact feeling. You're sitting in the middle of a gathering, people are laughing, and you're present enough to laugh too, right at the correct moments. But there's this hollow ache. You feel disconnected in conversations, completely unreachable, because nothing being said is actually meaningful to you. It's just surface pleasantries stacked on top of pleasantries until everyone goes home, having exchanged words that amounted to effectively nothing. For you, small talk has started to feel like a mild but very real form of punishment. Honestly, it feels like being asked to run a marathon in completely the wrong shoes. The performative cheerfulness of "how was your weekend" feels draining in a way that is just embarrassingly hard to justify. And this brilliantly illustrates that this isn't just in your head. Researchers Stavro and Wren conducted a massive study involving over 3,000 participants to understand exactly how our environments impact our sense of isolation.
What they found in those 3,000 people is fascinating. The negative effects of loneliness on well-being were actually stronger when people were with others than when they were by themselves. Let that sink in. Being in a room where you feel unseen doesn't protect you from loneliness. Sometimes it actually amplifies it. When you are alone, at least you aren't performing, right? You don't have to wear the mask. But in a crowd, disconnected from the chatter, the isolation is deafening.
Chapter 3. Reaching the breaking point.
So what happens when you run out of energy entirely? Tell me, have you sent this exact text recently? A message comes in, someone is inviting you somewhere, and before you've even consciously decided anything, your brain is already halfway through drafting a reason you can't come. I actually have something that night. But you don't. You're going to be at home, avoiding calls, in comfortable clothes, feeling quietly and almost suspiciously relieved that you don't have to go anywhere. That level of release at the thought of avoiding people suggests that seeing them has cost you significantly more than it's been returning to you. And that depletion, it leaks into other areas of your life. Beyond instantly drafting excuses and dreading routine interactions with the barista or your neighbor, there's a darker cost. Becoming inexplicably short with the people you love most. You snap at your partner, your closest friend, your mom. They've done nothing wrong, which makes the guilt so incredibly hard to sit with. But here's the raw truth. By the time you reach the people you're most comfortable with, every social reserve you had is completely spent. You ran through it performing for everyone else. Comfort with a loved one doesn't protect them from your depletion. It just means they're the only safe place left where you can finally release that exhaustion.
Chapter 4. The Escape Fantasy.
You start fantasizing about disappearing, but not in a dark way.
It's this weirdly specific, almost embarrassingly wholesome disappearance. You want a cottage, you want a remote village with unreliable internet, you want to walk into a room and have absolutely zero existing impressions to manage. You are craving a life where you haven't accumulated the heavy weight of other people's versions of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. You just want to exist, quietly, walking alone at night without history. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that there is actual science behind that urge to escape. A 2016 study looked at social habits and happiness. They found that for people with higher cognitive ability, more frequent socializing with friends was actually associated with lower life satisfaction. That is a very measured academic way of saying that for certain highly observant minds, more people genuinely equals a higher mental cost.
So wanting to put your headphones on to escape the noise, stare out the window, and completely detach from the world? That isn't a failure. Opting out isn't avoidance, it's self-preservation, dressed in a flannel shirt somewhere with absolutely no mobile signal. It is a deeply intelligent protective measure implemented by a brain that is simply begging for a break. Chapter 5, From Exhaustion to Discernment. Underneath the fatigue and all those canceled plans, there's often a profound sense of grief. You might literally be mourning who you used to be around people. You remember a version of yourself that found this easier, someone who walked into gatherings and felt something lift rather than drain, who stayed out late and actually called people back the very same day. The uncertainty of whether that energetic person is gone forever is heavy. But please, remember this. You haven't become someone who dislikes people. You've become someone who can no longer afford to spend time with the wrong ones.
The capacity to connect is absolutely still there within you. What feels right now like loss, grief, and a broken social battery is actually a transition into selectivity, clarity, and deep discernment. When you finally recognize your boundaries as selective, they stop feeling like a tragic loss. None of this means something in you broke, it means something clarified. You don't need more people in your life. You might just need fewer and only the right ones. If this deeply resonates with you, it's also worth noting that clearing this mental backlog, improving your sleep, and rebuilding your focus through guided, simple daily resets can really help you rebalance the energy you pour outward.
I want to leave you with this final thought to take with you today. What if your exhaustion is just your mind asking for a quieter life? The relief at canceled plans is real. The loneliness in crowds is real. But maybe, just maybe, it's all leading you to a place of peace, deeply rooted in your own solitude. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take care of your energy and embrace the quiet.